Hello and welcome. In this video, I want to talk to you not as a coach, not even as a therapist, as a clinician, but as your teacher and mentor, if you will. I want to talk about why so many couples experience ongoing, unresolved conflict. Every healthy marriage has conflict, disagreement, but healthy couples that describe their relationship as happy and satisfying, they say, yeah, we have conflicts and disagreements, but those conflicts and disagreements don't deteriorate the relationship because you've recognized that we have conflict. The conflict is destructive, disrespectful, is eroding the dignity, really, of both you and your husband. So now what we understand from neuroscience and attachment theory and systems psychology is going to help us shift that dynamic in your marriage. So let's start here. If you're in a marriage where every attempt to communicate turns into an argument, but not just an argument, a destructive argument. If you're a partner, if your partner is constantly denying your experience, blame shifting, acts like they're above feedback, they're arrogant. You're not imagining things, first of all. And contrary to what 9 out of 10 therapists will tell you, it's not just poor communication skills, right? Lots of therapists will hear what you're describing in your relationship and will try and coach you on what I call communication 101, basically how to listen and how to communicate clearly. You've probably tried that, didn't go well, and so we're going to understand that there's something deeper, and we're going to help you in this video to get at what's underneath and what to do about it. So the first thing to understand about the conflict in your marriage is that conflict in intimate relationships in marriage, think of it this way, it's not logical, and so you can't logic your way out of it. It's not rational. It's biological. Here's what I mean when I say that. When you feel unheard, disrespected, emotionally unsafe, your nervous system goes into a threat response. That might seem like whoa, that's, an overreaction, but that's your biology, that's your physiology talking. We call this amygdala hijacking, where your brain's fear center, the amygdala region, or really the limbic region of the brain, including the amygdala, the fear center just takes over. It hijacks the sort of more sophisticated information processing parts of the brain, the ability to reason, the ability to empathize, the ability to be curious and, find solutions. All of that shut down, gone, offline. Elvis has left the building, if you will. Now, think of it, if both partners are experiencing that in their brain, are dysregulated, then nobody is really listening to anybody. Instead, what happens, and I've seen this thousands of times in my work in psychotherapy, doing couples work, the couple, one or both, are defending, attacking, avoiding, and not connecting. So it's not a lack of love. It's that the conditions for safety aren't there. And without safety, there can be no growth. Without safety, there can be no warmth and connection and all the good things that you're craving for. And dang it all, it's got to be possible. Well, it is possible. So we need to include here a kind of another concept. So stick with me here. It's out of the psychodynamic theory. So, think of Freud and, all of that stuff. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to make fun of my friend Sigmund Freud. But the concept is transference. He popularized it, and it's still a very important concept in therapy and in relationships. In short, what that means is we don't just react to our partner. So we're not just having a relationship with our partner that we're married to. We are also having a relationship with and reacting to old familiar patterns that are still living in our nervous system. And those patterns, 9 times out of 10, have been shaped in our childhood. So when your husband shuts you down or blames you, the intensity of your reaction may have less to do with this moment and that your husband kind of behaved like a jerk there, and more to do with past pain that has never been fully resolved. Now, I want to be super clear here. That doesn't mean that your feelings aren't valid, right? You're having a painful, distressing reaction to what your husband said or did. But it also means that your marriage it's like it's hitting a buried cable or a buried nerve. And no communication coaching, use I statements and, blah, 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 all that stuff. That communication skills training is not going to fix the problem until what's underneath is healed. And that's not just you, of course. That's your husband too. Okay? So, another reason why conflict stays unresolved is that every relationship is a system, right? There's this whole sort of school of thought that is actually really important and really powerful. It's called systems theory, and it applies not just to things in nature, but it also applies to relationships, right? So basically what one person does inevitably forces another person to, react or respond. So if your husband avoids, if he goes into his man cave, or if he goes down to the basement or out to the garage to tinker, right? That's his action, and your tendency is to pursue. If he dominates with, raising his volume and acting arrogant, chances are you'll collapse. You'll kind of shut down. If he gaslights, if he starts to, fog you with, gaslighting, basically trying to get you to believe things that really are not true, your tendency is going to be to over-explain. Try even harder to make yourself clear. Try even harder to get your point across, right? Action and response, action and reaction. So that cycle then becomes the norm. It becomes like a mud road with ruts in it that gets really hard to get out of. Over time, those roles harden, they cement up. Not because either of you wants it that way. In fact, both of you are not enjoying what's happening right now. But it's happening because it's what the system has learned and reinforced, and really what the members of the system have learned and adopted to survive. And that pattern will go on and on and on and on until someone consciously disrupts the pattern. Until that happens, it'll just repeat every single time. So that's the short version of how come couples are entrenched in perennial conflict. But there's hope. You don't have to wait for your partner to change for the system to shift. Think about that for a moment. Over the years, you've tended to notice that you're reacting to what your husband is doing, and you want him to be different so that you can be different. Well, we can flip it around, and you don't have to wait for him to start acting differently. Because any person's clarity, nervous system regulation, and boundary work can change the entire emotional tone of the relationship, can change the entire system, right? So instead of you being the responder to his action, you're actually the action taker with clear vision, with nervous system regulation, and with good firm boundaries. Then you're introducing new information into the system, and he changes. Right now, I understand when you're hearing that, you're going, yeah, right, that will never happen. I'll tell you, friend, we've seen it happen over and over and over again, even with women that we've worked with that have been, frankly, skeptical and told us, I don't really believe this is going to work, but I don't have anything else to try, and I'm on the verge of divorce, so I'll take what you say, Dawn, and I'll try it. And that woman comes back after working with us, and she goes, oh my word, this blankety blank really works. Literal quote. So I want to be super clear here. This is not, we don't want to teach you to manipulate better. That's not what this is about, because that is disrespectful to you and to him. And this is not even about you sort of trying to be the bigger person and rising above. It's not even that. It's because you're learning how to step out of a dysfunctional dance and re-engage in a better, more life-giving dance, right? So you guys have been doing the tango for years. Nobody's enjoying this. Everybody's getting their toes stepped on. So what needs to happen is you need to step out of the tango, learn the salsa, and then re-engage doing the salsa steps. Don't ask me, I have no clue. But if you re-engage doing a different dance, the law of systems says that he will adapt. Absolutely true. So in the Detox Your Marriage coaching program, we're helping women that are, they're rocking it at work, they're walking it outside the home. Their friends love them, they're loved by their friends. But home is a terrible, horrible, unhappy place where they're, maybe the emotional caretaker of like a 5-year-old dressed up like an adult. Maybe the woman, maybe you're the scapegoat, constantly blamed. Maybe you're the only one trying, right? You're doing the heavy lifting and your husband is not. We help women in those situations. And what we're doing is we're using trauma-informed, neuroscience-grounded processes to regulate the nervous system so that you're no longer overreacting. Shift the power dynamic so that you're not feeling helpless and hopeless and powerless. You're actually feeling free from the threats, the ultimatums, and you're feeling clear, safe, in control again, so that you're not at the mercy of his volatile mood. I want to be super clear. This is not marriage counseling, okay? I mean, I know marriage counseling. I've done marriage counseling for almost 30 years. And I know that that works for normal marriages. And I know that that does not work if you're married to a narcissist. And so we would never torment you by inflicting conventional marriage counseling on you. It's not, no. And what we do is also not simply being a listening ear so you can talk it out. That's 10% helpful, but you're past that. I'm sure you have girlfriends where you can talk it out with, but you need more. You deserve more. And what this is about is it giving you the tools to lead the transformation, spearhead the transformation from the inside out of your relationship. So if this resonated, what I want you to do is book the free 15-minute quick start call where we're going to just investigate what exactly are the patterns that are keeping you stuck. Identify maybe some kind of what we call emotional leverage points that might help you to shift the dynamic, and kind of map out the next step to get you sort of out of survival mode and into actual connection. So click the link below, get the 15-minute quick start call, and let's take step one to fix this.